So good evening and welcome to ISD 709 Duluth Public Schools. This is our regular school board meeting. It is Tuesday, November 26th. It is 6:35. And again, welcome to the monthly Duluth Public Schools school board meeting. Our clerk Zadowski will take roll.
Member Banks?
Here.
Member Dirk Eater? Present. Member Loeffler Kemp? Here. Member Lofald?
Here.
Member Mikesell? Here. I'm here. Member Williams? Here. Superintendent Magus?
Present.
Assistant Superintendent Bonds? Present. Deputy Clerk Zunich?
Here.
Board Secretary Paquette? Here. Student Rep Miller from Denfeld?
Present.
And Student Rep Petronas from East?
Here.
Thank you. We'll rise, if able, for the Pledge of Allegiance, and our flag is in the front. Board members, you've had the agenda in your packet for a while. I'm looking for a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Mike so approves. Is there a second? Second. Is there any discussion or any additions to tonight's agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor of accepting the agenda in our packet and in the board book, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We're on now number 5, our school and community recognition. I turn the mic over to Assistant Superintendent Bonds for our monthly communication recognition. Thank you.
Thank you, and good evening, everyone. It is. Members of the board, tonight I am honored to recognize 4 exceptional educators, all from Myers-Wilkins Elementary School. These individuals demonstrated extraordinary courage and quick thinking in a critical situation. Breland freshman Corey Hinkle, Melissa Bolander, and Sarah Weller. Not here. Well, we appreciate her as well, too. On Friday, September 13th at Myers-Wilkins, these 4 individuals found themselves faced with an unexpected scenario when an SUV crashed into the wall of the school's gymnasium. Without hesitation, they sprang into action, responding immediately to assist the severely injured passenger and driver. Their swift response, calm demeanor in the face of this emergency was truly admirable and commendable. Breland, Corey, Melissa, and Sarah provided critical assistance and comfort to the injured individuals until the emergency personnel arrived on the scene. They demonstrated exceptional bravery, compassion, and a presence of mind under an extremely stressful situation. I was there and it was a sight to see. I was moved by what I observed that day. We are immensely proud of their heroic actions. Their response went far beyond what is expected of them, and they deserve our deepest gratitude and recognition for their courage and selflessness. Please join me in congratulating and thanking them as they embody the values of care, responsibility, and community that we strive to instill in our schools. Thank you. Don't go. And before I ask the board to come, would the board like to share any feedback, or if any one of you want to share any feedback? And then, of course, the board is always going to come and shake your hand. It's up to you. Come on, Principal.
done this a lot lately. Yeah, yes, absolutely. The bravery of these guys. I happened to be here as the accident happened and got the news here and quickly got back down there, but then heard of the heroics when I got there to find out somebody who watched the entire thing happen. It was the first call to these other staff members that got there and really did that first aid right away, and also to the emergency room dog walker that happened to be passing by at that time, and the staff member that took those dogs, and she went down. We were really lucky to have just that miracle kind of happen in that moment. And also the neighbors that were there as well, that, you know, people were really quick as they started to take pictures to say, please don't do anything yet. We have to let our families know that everybody is okay first. So the community really pulled together around that as well. So thank you.
I just want to say thanks to each of you as well. I was there early that day, and well, the accident was still on scene, and it was a very traumatic event. And I know that you didn't think of yourselves first. You put the needs of others first, and you jumped in and you helped, and it was very, very impressive. And I'd also like to say thanks to you as principal for the work that you did to lead there as well. It was a team effort by many, many people, and you three, and the fourth that's not here, really exemplified the best of that effort, and just want to say thank you.
Now we just want to shake your hand too, and I think they'll want to get a picture as well. But again, thank you so much. And Assistant Superintendent Bonds, your words were eloquent and warm and very moving as well. So thanks for the recognition. Continuing on with our agenda, we are on agenda item number 6. It's the report of the superintendent, and under this is 6A, and it's reports from our student school board representatives. Then it is our superintendent's report, and then it's just a brief reminder of our schedule of events coming up as board members. So returning now to Superintendent Magus.
Sure, thank you. And we really appreciate Representative Miller and Representative Petronas for the work that they're doing in showing leadership. This is the last school board meeting that they're, no, second to last. It's only November. It feels like December. We're almost there. But we really want to appreciate the leadership that you've shown. The student reports always are a great example of things going on in our schools. They exemplify strong leadership, and I've really had a pleasure of working with both of you. Who would like to go first tonight? Great.
All right, I'll start off this evening's report with some special highlights. East has sent multiple teams to state competitions this past month, including girls soccer, girls swimming, as well as boys and girls cross country. For each team, we've had a state send-off ceremony, which includes a dog run, where students step out of class to cheer on the teams as they run through the hallways. Already, our teams have made major accomplishments this school year, and we're so excited for more to come as the hockey, basketball, ski, and dance seasons have recently begun. Climate Club has been working harder than ever this school year. They hold weekly meetings, host local guest speakers, and even recently got to meet with climate activists Louisa Neubaumer and Helena Marshall, two of the most prominent climate activists from Germany. Tonight, countless East students showed up to the listening session to show their support for the solar project Climate Club has been working on. I think this is a perfect example of the students and how driven and passionate they are in this district. The members of Climate Club and the community are excited to see what the rest of the year has in store for climate action in the district. East has now had 3 pause days this school year. As mentioned previously at these meetings, the opportunity days allow for students to catch up on schoolwork, make up tests, or meet with clubs. Initially, on pause days, teachers were told to not give any new instruction, and the entire day was open for students to fulfill their needs. However, in October, East began a policy where teachers were allowed the first 15 minutes of class to teach. Some took advantage of this and gave lessons and held quizzes. Ultimately, many students have felt that the 15 minutes of instruction counters the idea that these days are supposed to be a replacement of the daily win period we once had. With the removal of win and less time for opportunity on pause days, students are feeling the burden of the extra workload of 7-period day. East Student Government recently welcomed Superintendent Magus to join us for a discussion on the school district's budget. On behalf of Student Government, we thank Mr. Magus for meeting with us, and we would like to continue to embrace further meetings and discussions with the district. As you mentioned earlier, my term as student representative is nearing its end. Therefore, East has begun the process of electing a new student to be the 2025 representative. That application is now open to juniors. The Career Center at East High School is organizing their annual Giving Tree project, where students and community members have the opportunity to buy for a gift for a local child. This year, volunteers have come together to buy holiday gifts for over 250 children. And that is all that I have this month. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. And Representative Miller, I know we had an opportunity to meet as well, and we are working on the meeting for the Denfeld student group.
Yes, I'm very excited for that, to have more student involvement in those decisions too. First, I have the cultural aspects that's happening at Denfeld right now. So for BSA, we organized a volleyball event during Opportunity Day. I thought that was very exciting. There was a lot of students that participated, and there was also prizes I was giving from BSA. Multicultural room has been used, I guess, more so compared to the beginning of the school year. We have some more decorations in there to make it more cozy, and it's going well in there too. It's going to be more so when an adult is inside the room to make sure a little bit more, I guess, secure rather than the old BSA room, I would say. And I think it's going like a great process for that. The Indigenous Rock Your Mocks Week happened. The assembly was on November 15th. There's activities including drumming, performances, and dancers. Something that everyone realized that there was a lot more respect from the students while watching this performance, since it was a lot about culture, especially a lot of people can be arrogant at these things, so it's important to have that respect, and we realized at Denfeld that was a good thing that we saw from the outcome of that as being the first one, so hopefully there's many more to come. And then upcoming events, November 25th, the Fond du Lac Band of Ojibwe Flag Ojibwe flag was installed at the girls' first home basketball game at 7 p.m. yesterday. It was very nice. It was very eventful, and everyone in the community had showed up for it. December 2nd is the speech informational meeting at 3:30 in room 2312, so that's exciting. Speech is starting up. And then December 4th is the fast food night at the Career Center, 4:30 to 6:30 p.m. This is something that's exciting for, I guess, students and seniors to go to and bring their parents with. This is something that Denfeld holds every night. We also had senior scholarship night the week before last week anyhow, and there's a lot of information being put out to make sure the equity for everyone to get the same information. Me and the principal has discussed a safety Denfeld form for anonymous, I would say, anonymous reporting for students. We're working on getting this done. Mr. Tuscan officially has like the whole form out and it's all ready to go. We're gonna start hanging up the flyers for it and getting it known that students can report things. I think that I wanted to bring this up to have a reporting system at Denfeld because it's nerve-wracking to bring things up to the adults. And I think it's just something that we should already have had. And then the email gets sent to the faculty and then they respond to it. For theater, the Evil Dead musical performance was very good. I went and watched it. It was very, lots of different emotions throughout it. Yeah, it's amazing how they got to even like have that show in general, and then a lot of people had fun with like the splattering of like the fake blood, and then have the also extra shirts for that. And then the drama club is also fundraising for the New York City trip, and then there's Oktoberfest volunteering. So if you want to sign up for that, contact Keely. The school board rep we're coming to an end, I would say. So we're trying to find some more juniors to get involved in this. Last year, I would definitely say that a lot of people didn't really know about it and it wasn't really known at all. So me kind of going to it, I had to find it. So this year, I kind of wanted to make sure it was more aware by the students. So we're gonna put posters up already. I'm gonna make a poster for it. And then also like they can contact me for more information. And also in the newsletters and everything. The Career Center, lots of activities. It's been very engaging. Seniors in the room to help with applications. Sometimes I go in there, Lauren, she's amazing, and there's just at least like 10, 15 students in there just working on applications to get it done. The Hunter's License, obviously that's always been a concept at Denfeld. So there's the fall ball, so that's one of the dances to have the Hunter's License. With the new Hunter's License, the absences does not imply at all, so that definitely increased a lot of attendance at the dance, which is good. I would say a lot of students like that, but it also showed increase in grades for the population of sophomore class after implementing this new Hunter's License. And also I feel like with having focus only on grades, it helps them improve a better chance to go, so it kind of gives them more motivation to even go to the dance. And then just some more information. What I've heard a lot is the trust between the students and the school board because of the 7-day period. I would say that the school board kind of went to the school and asked if we should do it and like some feedback on it. And the students feel like their voice wasn't really heard with that, and it's still kind of affecting them. And then also like what Mia said about how assignments are still being made in those classrooms, which I think should be more clarified. I think we're doing the 15-minute thing too now, and like from my brother and all of like the BSA people that they've said that it's affecting them getting the stuff done, especially with tests and quizzes. And then Denfeld right now, me and the principal kind of had a pretty good discussion about figuring out absences at the school, what the structure and the system and why people aren't going to class, since it's pretty bad at Denfeld right now for the absences. So we're trying to figure out, instead of forcing people to go to class for like a Hunter's License, what's the structure and why is it like that from the students? And then lastly, I have information about the budget cuts. These cuts will impact our daily lives, but it's crucial to prioritize and continue focusing on equity in the district. Even as we make these cuts, we must recognize the historically disadvantage between communities within the district and ensure that we don't move backwards in terms of equity. It's important to maintain progress and not lose the progress we've made towards inclusivity and fairness. I think with gathering feedback from the schools, it'd be very helpful to give facts and numbers to the students where the money is going towards right now, to actually give real information from the students, how they can actually have a voice in. And then also, so like the students aren't saying things blindly and hoping that their thoughts are going to be allocated. And that's all I have today. And I also have to leave soon. I have an event for Student Senate. So, thank you.
Thank you both. We appreciate the reports, and just wanted to say one other thing, that we've been exploring a concept of looking at something, and this is just a draft name, but an intra-city student council, where we would have representatives from all of our high schools, several representatives, so it wasn't just one person representing, but multiple, where we could meet and serve as an advisory panel, that we could listen to the concerns that students have. We could bring forward proposals that we have and seek input, so that we would, rather than creating, because right now it feels like we're kind of creating something from nothing to try and get input on the budget. And I think we are all seeking to have more voice for our students. You are very important. Your desired daily experiences are critical for us, and we are here for you, right? I think a lot of times that's one thing in education that's sometimes strangely forgotten, that really we are all here for the students first, as opposed to just assuming people are just going to go through the motions and go to classes. With that in mind, we want to make sure that we're listening to you, that we're taking your input, and that we have mechanisms for leadership. I think student leadership is probably the theme of tonight. It was very well represented, and you two both exemplify that very well. For sake of time, we've gone through our mission, vision, and core values many times before, but they are in my report, and they are shared many places in the district. Our topics, we had our student reports. I'll be talking a little bit about budget reduction realignment, talk a little bit about solar projects, as I mentioned previously, talk a little bit about some advancing equity updates that we have, partly related to the American Indian education work we're doing. Talk about our professional learning updates that we have related to PD Day tomorrow, and then some things with legislative update. So, our budget reduction and realignment, this is similar to a slide I presented last time, but it has some updates on it, and some things that we were looking to do we've actually accomplished and checked them off the list. We met with each of our labor partners. We held follow-up meetings with their leaders. We also held part 2 of our Duluth Federation of Teachers Quality Budget Leadership Team, the QLT for budget. We had that second meeting. That was really very, very important input for us. We also met with our principals by level twice. So we met with all of our elementary principals, got their input on potential reductions and reallocations at the elementary level. As a reminder, we have a target of about $1 million at elementary. Met with secondary, where the target is about 1.3 million. And then we are also meeting with special education, and have had meetings with our district services team here as well. We also completed all individual site budget meetings. So we've been to every single school, every single location, to meet with staff, to share about the guiding change document we have, and to answer any questions. And Simone has been with me along the way on all of it, and has been excellent. And we always try and start, when we get to the questions, by modeling asking some tough questions, because we want to make sure that people feel comfortable asking any of the questions that they might have on their minds. And I think it's been well received. I think that investment in time and trust and transparency is important for us. As I mentioned, we're engaging in some student input opportunities. I met with the East students, and we're coordinating for the Denfeld meeting, and I'd be glad to meet again. We also published and are utilizing that web-based input piece that Adele was talking about before. So we have a budget transparency website linked right on the top of our page that breaks down a lot of information. And there's also a place for frequently asked questions and ability for people to submit their own ideas and input off that page. And then I would say that we are on track to share our proposed budget reductions at our December school board meeting. So what I'd like to make sure that we have an opportunity to do is set up a series of smaller group meetings with board members, where we can go over in a little more detail about what those reductions look like exactly, because we don't want to. We have to be very careful about the way that we share things at the school board meeting, because some things are more personally identifiable related to, if there's only one person in a position and we say we're reducing this type of position, that would be unfair to the individuals involved in those. So we want to make sure that we inform you so you know what you're voting on. But then when we have the vote, it will be more based on a number of certified and non-certified individuals moving forward. We will share more as well at the committee of the whole meeting prior to the December meeting, and hope to have those meetings set up. I'll ask Executive Assistant Paquette to set up those meetings for the next round if they're not set up already. Backwards. Solar projects. Nobody's waiting for that, are they? So what I shared with our students today is that we're really continuing our work on two different possible solar projects. And I do want to say I heard a lot of enthusiasm, and I share that enthusiasm. What I shared in the update was, it did still say continue work on possible projects. It didn't say we're definitely doing two projects. It said that these are two that we're working towards. We are continuing, and I shared some details on the information. The first is really, in my mind, it may be even the most exciting one. It's the biggest opportunity, and it will cost the district nothing. And this would be a project with Lincoln Park Middle School and the city of Duluth, partnering with Minnesota Power to put in a rather large solar array on some of the Lincoln Park land, which would be basically our contribution to the project would be the in-kind lease of the land to put the array there, and then we would get a portion of the power, and the city would get a portion of the power as well. So that would be an opportunity that the Solar Club is really, really excited about, and I am too. The other project is a solar for schools project, and looking at Stowe Elementary, and there would be some upfront costs for the project, but between the grant and federal costs, it could cover most of the cost for that project. So we're looking at that. We're also having a structural engineer conduct a review of the roof plans to ensure it would be able to handle the weight of the panels, because we're finding some things out about the Stowe school roof. And it basically has to do with the type of, it's a long story, but the type of insulation we have in the roof, what was previous to code, we have to upgrade that, so the insulation will be heavier, and so we need to make sure that the roof structurally can maintain both the new insulation and the solar panels. So that's a factor in the Stowe roof project. We also are wanting to make sure that we are clear about the IRA funding, because I think that's something that has been, we've talked about it a lot here, and Brett Pence has worked with us quite a bit on the solar funding, and basically some of the things he shared about the IRA funding is that, and I'm just going to read from the email, that basically it works like this. ISD 709 can claim tax credits from the IRS for the solar array that we install, even though we don't pay taxes. So we're not a tax-paying entity, but we can get tax credits for the solar arrays. Then we get a percentage back off the project cost. And in the case of ISD, we could get 30 to 50% back, probably more likely 40, as we talked about. And that an additional 10% could be gained by using domestic content in our project. So if we're investing in American-made solar panels and things of that nature. So basically, the tax credits are something that we're exploring with our financial advisors, and making sure that they are as good as they seem, because it would potentially mean that we would have to take out a loan for those. And part of the reason why I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver on the Stowe project piece is also, as the students noted, we are in a budget reduction phase. And so if we're talking about every $100,000 we invest in a project is going to be basically the equivalent of a full-time teacher. And so we have to be really careful about that. I do agree with the students that we can also look at this as an investment towards better financial status in the future. So it could put us on more solid financial ground down the road. So even if there was an expenditure today, that might be able to help us in the future have a better financial footing. So there's that as well. So those are the two main projects that we're looking at. But I really want to say that I appreciate the students and what they put into their work on this. It's very, very obvious, their passion. I also really appreciated being able to meet with the East Solar Project, or the climate. I'm sorry, it's been a long day, and I didn't get a lot of sleep last night. The Climate Club, and it was really, really a great experience. Enjoyed the time. Great leadership. I would also say the board has been leading in this area as well, exploring. We have had the solar funding on our legislative platform for many years. We've done a lot of lobbying. I've talked to senators, I've talked to representatives from the area, from outside of the area as well. We even talked with the governor's office about it. So we are advocating too, and we want to see this happen. And it's a difficult time right now financially. So we are going to continue to explore bravely, and hopefully one of the two projects will be something that we're able to move forward with. That Lincoln Park project, if both were available, I think the Lincoln Park project would be in the best interest of the district, potentially over the Stowe project, but we will see what comes to fruition. Student also, I know I'm spending a lot of time on this, but we've been talking about it and receiving a lot of emails, and it's also a big part of the student experience. This Stowe Elementary used to be a environmental education magnet school, and we actually have a cohort of about 8 teachers who have gone through additional studying recently on environmental education and outdoor education. And so we are kind of looking to reinvigorate, if not create a magnet school there, to at least reinvigorate some of that spirit of environmental education. And we think that a solar project, that would be a great spot for it. And finally, we already do have a solar project at Lowell Elementary. So that is something that we have already done as a district, but I think it's important to continue exploring. So regarding advancing equity and some of the things that we've been talking about related to American Indian education, I just want to reiterate this, and this is something that is the core of our strategic plan. It's really the core of the work that our leadership team, thinking about our senior leaders, in particular Mr. Bonds, who is the Assistant Superintendent of Teaching and Learning, and myself, because we are focused on the educational aspects, but also Simone Zunich, who is focused on the finances. There's a huge equity piece there, as well as with human resources. We are dedicated to advancing equity as one of our top priorities. It's one of our top 3 priorities. We have supporting every student, advancing equity, and improving systems. And really, it's been the hallmark of the careers that we've had. You know, we've always been deeply dedicated in that area. But we engaged in just some of the things we've been doing lately. We engaged in tribal consultation with the Fond du Lac Band on November 17th. That was our first tribal consultation. Actually, the first one we had scheduled was for the September 13th, when we had that accident at Myers-Wilkins, and we had to reschedule. The tribal council is also new. They had new elections, and so they were kind of getting settled later in the summer, and so that's part of the reason why it was now that we had that first tribal consultation. But we've talked about having multiple consultations. We're more than willing, and I want to thank Member Banks and Chair Lofald for attending the last tribal consultation. It's really important to have board membership, and greatly appreciated. Also, our American Indian cohort at Denfeld launched this fall and is going really well. We're hearing really great things. It's been just a welcoming environment, and you heard from some of our speakers too that that's something we don't want to cut. And also, I would say we sometimes hear people think that we're going to cut or reduce from American Indian education. The programs that have specific restricted funds, like American Indian education, it is illegal for us to transfer those funds and use them differently. If I wanted to hire a new principal and just have a principal paid for out of American Indian Education funds, I couldn't do that. If I wanted to hire a general education teacher out of American Indians education funds, I couldn't do that. So we are not only morally and professionally obligated not to misuse those funds, but we're also legally required to use those funds properly, and that's our every intent. And also, I would say that throughout all of our conversations on budget, one of the things that Simone and I have talked about is that when we're looking at reductions, we are looking at reductions from the general fund. The general fund is where the reductions comes from. It doesn't come from the restricted funds. Just like American Indian Education, we can't take money out of food service to purchase that teacher or purchase that principal either. Those are designated funds that need to be used in that area. Some other things that have been going on, we had our Denfeld flag dedication at the gym last night. It was really great. A lot of folks were there. Thank you for everybody who was able to attend. And it was just it was a very touching experience, culturally and linguistically, and it was just a really, really great opportunity. And it was interesting, it happened after the JV game, and actually the junior varsity game went into double overtime and tied. So everybody was waiting there for the event, but also biting their nails just watching this killer junior varsity game at the same time with Carleton. So it was quite a night. The district is also working in partnership with the American Indian Advisory Group, or the American Indian Parent Advisor Group, APAC, to develop the American Indian Education Plan. And Mr. Bonds, basically he's been supervising the American Indian Education Program for the past, this would be your 7th day because it was basically last week and 2 days now. And that it wasn't completed prior to our change in administration, and so you've been you've worked to get an extension, you're working tomorrow with that group to complete the plan. It's important, and it's a legal requirement that we do so with that group. And so just want to say thanks for serving as interim coordinator until the leadership of those efforts is finalized. That's what we're trying to do. We're pausing for just a moment and saying, this is important leadership. It's something that we value. It's something that we're legally obligated to. It's something that we're morally obligated to. But we want to make sure that it's structured in a way that is best for the district and best for American Indian education. That's something we've committed to every time there's a position that opens. We have taken a look at it and we've paused, and sometimes we've rewritten things, sometimes we've upgraded things, sometimes we've realigned things, and that's what we're trying to do in this scenario. But our commitment is unwavered towards this. And just as a piece of trivia, my first 7 years in education in the Toppenish School District was on the Yakima Nation, and I also have completed my teaching certificate at Heritage University and my master's degree at Heritage University, which was a tribal college of the Yakima Nation. So I'm not saying that, I'm just saying it's been something that I've been committed to for a long time, and we want to make sure that we continue to advance equity moving forward. Professional learning. Tomorrow, it's not a day off. I was asked recently if everybody was off, and our students are off. You're going to be having fun tomorrow, probably, right, with a 5-day weekend. But your teachers will be hard at work. Many other staff members too, sharpening the saw of knowledge, working with our staff, and really gaining additional skills. And they can't wait. They're looking forward to it as well. And it's just really something that we've dedicated ourselves to. And I'm looking back and looking at people who are part of our QSC and QLT who have asked for and wanted more professional learning time. We negotiated that, we have that, and we're putting it to good use. Well, and that, our legislative update, I just skipped a slide. Just a reminder of my goals for this year. That was a slide from before, but making sure that we're focusing on information for decision making. That's why we're focusing on really making sure that you have the information you need for our budgeting decision making. It's also asset protection and continuing our school improvement. And then finally, as far as our legislative updates, our lobbyist, Jeff Anderson, is analyzing the board member feedback that was produced in the survey. And we're setting a final meeting through Ms. Paquette to finalize our platform and then also meet with our local representatives. We also plan to participate in robust lobbying, including at the Duluth St. County Days. And in meeting with the chamber today, one of the initiatives related to CTE that we're working on as a broader project, and I'll share hopefully more on that in the coming weeks. They plan to have that as one of the central themes of what they're focusing on. So it's an initiative of higher education, an initiative of the city, but especially of the Duluth Public Schools to strengthen our CTE work. We even met today with Cirrus to talk about how we can expand our aviation work there with CTE funding. So student funding, career and technical education, and other priorities will be addressed in our platform. Any questions or comments?
Member Eater?
I just had another quick question. When we were looking at the two possible projects for the solar project, the second one that we talked a little bit about was the federal tax credits, and I know that you touched on this, but since we're an entity that doesn't pay taxes, what does that money coming back to the district look like?
It's green, it folds, no, just kidding. Sorry. No, it's, so basically, sorry, Executive Director Zunich, my helpline. No, let me. Phone a friend. Yeah, phone a friend. Actually, let me pull the email back up. So basically, they say we don't need to remove any grants received from the project cost. Thus, if the ISD bids out $1 million solar project, if we receive 50%, which would be 500,000, and I'm getting to the part about what it looks like, from the Minnesota State Schools grant that we apply for, we get 50% back from the IRS. So it would be, we would be doing a filing for direct pay. So it's a direct pay filing, and it comes back to us as money from the federal government, and it comes in the form of a direct deposit from the federal government. So it's kind of like if, trying to envision, like from a personal perspective, like if you had a child, say you didn't have to pay income tax, but you have a child tax credit, and you get money back from the federal government as a tax return, even though you're not paying as an employee. That's kind of what it would look like for us as a direct deposit from the federal government.
John, can I add, please?
Please do.
John is correct in what he said. It's a direct pay back to us. I met with our financial advisors. They made it very clear we would have to hire a CPA firm to file the credits for us because they have to be done in such a way. And it would take 18, they think it will take 18 to 36 months to see a return on our money, so we have to fund the project up front. I'm hearing that it wouldn't be that long. It would be up to 18 months. And it's very specific in that grant as well, who we hire. It has to be prevailing wage. It has to be American-made materials and supplies. So we'd have to follow a very strict protocol, which I'm proud to say I believe we already do with all of that. So it would be funding the project up front, and in hopefully 2 years, we'd get a check.
So if it's so let's just say, I'm thinking numbers wise, so if it's $1 million to do the Stowe project, and we're just pulling that or whatever project, right? And then we get the Solars for School grant for 500,000, and then we have an eligibility for these federal tax credits up to 50% or for 50%?
Up to 40%. So
to
we would have to
40%.
fund the 10%.
So we would fund the 100,000?
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
And just for a little additional detail, the Stowe project would cost about $1.4 million, and the Solar for Schools grant would pay for $500,000, and we would have the possibility of about $710,000 $100,000 in possible IRA funds. So that would still be a district cost of about $200,000.
Thank you.
Member Banks?
Thank you, Chair Lowfold. I have a couple clarification questions for, I believe, the superintendent and possibly our financial representative. Under bullet 3, could you go back to that? So, let's see. The cohort, this is about the cohort at Denfeld.
Oh, under
Yeah.
advancing equity.
Advancing equity, thank you. So, first question, what is the cost to run the cohort annually? Has that, is that available? And then secondly, in your report, do we have assurances as board members that this program is going to continue? I'm not hearing that, so if you can tell us what the cost is and whether or not that would continue.
So I'll let Mr. Bonds address the cost piece based on the number of people serving the program, because I think we could estimate based on the number of teachers and paras and others that, yeah, or Executive Director Zunich could estimate that, but perhaps with your help. But as far as whether or not it continues, our intention is for it to continue. We want it to continue. We plan for it to continue. I think it's also, anytime you start something as a pilot and check it out, you want to make sure it works. If it's, you know, we're only a couple months in, if it is a complete disaster and everybody's dropping out of it and it's not, you know, producing the results that we think it will, then we would have to consider whether or not we were continuing with it. But as of thus far, it seems to be functioning quite well. And I would also say, we have to be really thoughtful about making sure that it is truly supportive of our students, which I believe it is because of the nature of the program and the people working in it. But it could be perceived as segregating our students too if we're not careful. So there's that aspect of really seeing how things go. We wanted to be innovative. We wanted to take the input of our American Indian Advisory Group, and that's kind of where we're going. Mr. Bonds, do you want to continue?
I guess I would like to add, I think this is an important conversation that I would actually like to have on a COW agenda, just an overview of the cohort as well as the partnership that we have that will do an assessment of the cohort. And I would like to offer the board an opportunity to do that next month instead of just guesstimating right now in the moment of the expenditures, but we can make sure we have at that point in time the expenditures, and we can give you an example of share information related to what students are experiencing in the cohort, and have teachers and staff here to share some insights.
Thank you. I would appreciate that if we were able to do that, because it's really good. As we say, we have equity as one of our number one priorities. I just want to see how that works and the impact that it's potentially going to make, especially at Denfeld High School.
And for the audience, as well as the people who are listening, and for others, when I make the point about what could go wrong, it was only because you said, does the board have assurances that we definitely will continue it? And I was just trying to think of in what cases would we potentially not continue it. Our intention is to continue it. I was just saying, you know, are we promising 100%? Nothing is 100% because it's the first time we're doing it, and we want to make sure it works and is in the best interest of kids, but we plan to continue it.
And I wanted to make sure I'm not putting you on the spot. That was not my intention. Thank you.
I got that, but I also, for the audience, I didn't want them to think that we were looking at it as something that was failing already, that students were dropping out and nobody was liking it or anything like that. We see positive beginnings to it, and we hope it's a promising practice.
We've got Williams, Member Williams next, and then we have Member Loeffler Kemp, and then I see Member Mike Sell, so that's the order right now.
Thank you. I actually was going to ask about that cohort as well, so thank you for
mentioning having them present for us because I did want more details in general. But along with that, it would be great to hear from students in the cohort if they could give their feedback on how they think things have been going. And that's all I wanted to ask about.
I appreciate that.
Thank you, and I just want to check with our technology. Are we losing the feed or just the board? Oh,
That
now
was
it's
a,
back. Okay,
That
now
was
it's back.
a operator error on the part of the superintendent who was trying to cast and accidentally shut it down when he shut
Okay, I
his.
was just making
Chromebook.
sure that we were still live streaming and recording. Okay.
I
Thank
do
you.
have one more question, though.
Board Chair?
Sorry. How many students are in the cohort? Do we know that?
Approximately 12.
Thank you.
Is Member Larva going to come up? No, okay, okay.
I would also, because of timing, we just completed our agenda setting for the COW meeting. So if the board would, can it be either December or January as a COW agenda item? Would that be sufficient, or would you like to hear about it sooner?
You want to hear more about the cohort on, or you just want to know the budget?
No, I was going to have the cohort come and give an overview of the program and what students are experiencing, and we could have the budget information. I just know in terms of timing, we just completed the board agenda
That's
setting for
next
the COW.
week.
Yeah, and it is, and so
Next
I'm
week?
just realizing that timing is
Yeah, we're not going to do it next week. Yeah.
Yeah.
So January or February.
January. Thank you.
Give it some more time.
I
to-
offered, then I realized I just set an
Okay,
agenda.
okay.
It's a little
I
too late
gotcha.
for that.
Two
January.
work
Thank
days
you.
away.
Member Loeffler Kemp, then Member Mike Sell.
Thank you. Great report, Superintendent. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the Solar in the Schools grant. And again, you know, I'm really excited that we put the work in, and I really thank our staff. I know there were many staff involved in getting that grant to where it's at. Can you just clarify, just because there are a lot of numbers that were thrown around tonight, and I want to make sure we all have a common understanding of that $500,000 set aside and what that means for where we're at with that right now with the grant. So just so everyone's hearing the same thing, because there's a lot out there on that.
That's a good question. And actually, Executive Director Zunich and I were trying to figure out what was meant by the 500,000, and we didn't recall a particular number being set, other than when we talk about the Stowe project, that would, you know, that would mean that we had about 500,000 from the Solar for Schools project. I think a number we've been talking about internally is, a couple $100,000 might be something that we'd consider. $500,000 right now during budget reduction is outside of the scope of what we're talking about. So I would want to hear more about where that figure of $500,000 was coming from, because that would be a pretty large number, considering we're cutting $5 million. That would add another 10% to what we have to reduce by. So I can seek more information from our solar club after our meeting.
So to clarify, as a district, we have not received notification that we are getting $500,000 for a solar grant. Just to make sure, because again, I think that's floating around out there, and I just want to, we've
Right,
applied, but we
we've done the preliminary, we
yeah.
applied and we received acceptance for the preliminary work, and so now we're putting together the more detailed work related to it, and we haven't heard yet. Also with the Lincoln Park project, that's not a guarantee either. We have to wait till the funds are released. But in talking with the city and talking with others, I think we would have a very, very, very solid shot for that project, based on what I'm hearing. And again, I try not to overpromise, but I'm hearing that would be looked at very favorably by Minnesota Power and the city.
Great, thank you for clarifying. I just, I've been a part of grants before and written them and waited anxiously for them myself, and have followed this pretty closely. So I just want to make sure any information that's getting out there by anybody, it's clear on, and I get really nervous when I'm reading that some people think we already have in the bank $500,000, or there might be a perception of that. So I just wanted to clarify that. That's all. Thank you.
Member Mike Sell.
Yeah.
And then Member Lowfeld.
Thank you. I appreciate trying to get everyone on the same page with those things. As we talk about solar for schools and the different projects that we're considering, I'm hearing talk of the grants, the IRA, and then what would have to come out of the school districts' budgets. I know that we have a lot of different stakeholders and community members, who are able to help and have given their expertise. I'm so appreciative to all of them and all their advocacy. One thing that I know has been heard a number of times is the possibility of low-interest loans. And I haven't had an opportunity to be updated if that's something that has been looked into by us as a district, and if that's something that's being considered. And I don't need super details, just understanding that that's something that we're following up on.
We are we are researching it. There are positives and negatives of it, but I think we need to learn more. Definitely not saying no, but not saying yes yet as well. Also, the percentage of the IRA funds is actually based on the poverty rates for the school. So as an example, we talked about 40% is a number that we've talked about. Stowe, because of their larger free and reduced lunch rate, would actually be a 50% return with IRA fund. So that is a factor when it comes to the IRA funds. But the banking piece, and I'm not sure if you want to say anything about your thoughts on taking a loan, because that's sometimes not advised for school districts to take loans.
It would not be my recommendation to do a bank loan. We have bonds that we purchase for projects, for capital projects, refinancing bonds. But we'd have to be, with everything said and with all of our budget reductions, it'd have to be a group effort to really look at to see if that's something as a school board we'd want to do that. But at this time, I would not recommend it.
With that said, I know that one of my goals as superintendent, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, is making sure that the board is provided with as much information as possible for decision-making. So if we were moving forward with a loan, we would want to maybe even have a guest speaker or somebody that could share more information so that you would be well-informed. And we are continuing to look into it, but it's something that there is caution around.
So I have a few questions too along that same line. One of them would be, does the fund, no matter what monies we as a district have to put forward, does that come from general fund or LTFM? Or other funding streams? And it looks like Simone is on her mic.
Right. I'm on the mic. So we'd have to, our general fund is tight. So we'd have to pull it out of our assigned fund balance. And we do have projects and uses for that money at this time. So I think as collectively as a group, if we wanted to go with an amount, we would just have to build that into whatever we decide to do. But it would come from the assigned fund balance.
And then with our students, some of them still here, funding is obviously, you can see that we've got some big decisions to make about where this money could possibly go, and it's still up in the air whether we get the grant or not, or where our IRA funding, is that what it's called? So then my question to all of the community that was here tonight and our students is that there must be other partners, like if we're partnering or potentially partnering with the Minnesota Power and the city, why aren't we looking for partners for the Stowe project to then to fund that sliver that we have to fund? Is that a possibility to get the project over the finish line? Is if the grant is approved for $500,000 and we have some assurance, or we get some assurance of IRA, could that, or even without the assurance of IRA, could you be tapping the community for more partnership ideas?
I think we could. I think that we've been doing a lot of work with partnership on a variety of other fronts. Today I was meeting with Cirrus, talking about partnership for aviation programming, and we're talking with Essentia about some partnering for healthcare. And I think that generally when we're asking big asks, we're trying to make sure that it's also tied to something that is in the that is closer to the core interests of the entity for which we're asking for it from, rather than just asking for like a gift. And I think that's where Minnesota Power comes in as a potential partner for this big project, and that's why that's a great opportunity. But I think could be hard for us to, in thinking about the fundraising we did for Unity in our community, I think that was a good example. We worked really, really hard for months and raised maybe $40,000. But I think that there are other things that we've asked for from the community, and we've sought partnership for things like the DTA bus passes and things like that, where we've had some limited interest, but it hasn't come to fruition. I'm not saying that we couldn't. And I guess with all due respect and love for the solar project, we have to decide how much of the core work we want solar projects to be for the school district too, because we are spending a lot of time on solar, and solar is very important. But you know, do you want me and my administration to spend? We're probably spending 10% of our time now on solar, maybe somewhere on there. Do you want us to spend more time to seek additional partners? That would be my concern, just because there's a limit of time as a resource as well. And I'm just trying to be upfront about things, because I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver either.
And that push again comes back with, and again, I agree too. We're spending a whole lot of time. I'm spending a whole lot of time on solar as well, and I want to spend more time digging into, you know, our equity and our monies going to where we need to and following the funding stream. But I still would say that there is a large community out there that have always offered their services. And so maybe the workload shouldn't be here, it should be there, and they will seek out the partners. And when I look at the possibility of Stowe, some of our board members were just at Stowe this week with a building tour with their principal, and they are still doing the recycling. They still have the worm farm. They have 20 acres of land around that school, and with their history of some environmental things, I just see that Stowe is just ripe for partnering with. And even with the Gary New Duluth and the kind of energy that community is producing with the skate park and their community center and their partnership there. But I know, so I'll just get off, you know, that's, because my other question would be too, I'm a little skeptical sometimes when we look at the Lincoln Park project with the city and with Minnesota Power, when we're allowing the land to be used that we have up there. But then in your word choice, you said portion, we'll get a portion. Well, I want to know what that portion is as a partner. I mean, they should be then, the whole Lincoln School should be part of, they should reap the benefits of that array on the property there. And that, if that's our portion, well, then I can accept that. And until, I don't know, we're not I know that we're not close to that project, so I'll let that simmer just a little bit, although you have a response.
No, I would say, I guess I asked for direction from the board, and maybe this is something to think about and come back with a reflection of, we are prioritizing solar, and we want to prioritize solar. And to what degree does the board direct the administration to continue to go? I guess what I'm saying is, I need more direction from the board as far as what you want with solar. If you want it to be a top priority for the district, I think that's great. We can do that. We can do anything, but we can't do everything. And so I want to do solar. We're exploring solar. We're spending a lot of time in solar. I also hear the concerns about the American Indian graduation rates and thinking about our students of color and the graduation rates. both are really important. When I think about where does solar fit with our three priorities of supporting every student, advancing equity, and improving systems, I'd probably say it fits somewhere under improving systems. And our results, our academic results are not where they need to be, and our results for our historically underserved students are very much in need of attention. And so I would want to know what increase in effort and resource do we want to put towards solar projects, and at what expense to other things? Because there is a finite amount of time, and there's a finite amount of money, and so we are exploring it. We're exploring it very seriously. And if we want to raise that as a priority over other things, then we need to consider that. But we're working really hard on solar. I want to make sure that I know where it fits in the scope of interests of the board.
Member Eater.
I appreciate the opportunity that the state government and that the federal government has given school districts to try to shift towards more clean and renewable energy, which is a priority, and I understand that. My skepticism and my hesitancy comes to is that the focus of a district, in my opinion, is to be focused on the education of the entirety of its students, and I'm not sure where energy generation in terms of solar comes into play to that. We have some exceedingly difficult decisions to make coming up in the next little bit when it comes to budget reductions, and we're talking about $5 million this year, and I don't know what it's going to look like next year. I don't know what those budget reductions are going to keep doing, because they're not going to go away. They're going to continue. And I know the priority of the board and the administration really is to cut or to reallocate budgets as far away from students as we can, so that the student-facing experience, we try to keep that experience intact to the best that we can. But we have some hard decisions, so I appreciate the urgency and the urgency and the importance when we think about climate change and how it is going to affect especially the Northland. And then I'm trying to balance that with the needs of our students, especially our historically underserved students. My children go to the West Side schools, Piedmont, Denfeld, Lincoln Park, where we see a lot of those historically underserved students go to school. And my priority is going to be making sure that we have a budget and a direction that is focused there. And I would be hesitant to support too much more time and attention and energy towards solar, just because I really want our focus to be that student experience and working on those academic outcomes for our students. That is my first priority. So that's a little bit where I sit, but I'm, of course, am one of many members of this board and will always support the decision and the direction of us as a whole. But I just wanted to offer up my piece of, or my thought process in this. Thank you.
Member Zadowski.
I'm very curious to see what's going to happen with the city grant with Lincoln Park. Because from what I'm understanding, is that like 100% of that is going to be covered for that project?
Except for the in-kind lease of our land. So they would lease our
Right.
land.
And I had another, I appreciate you bringing that up, Member Lowfalden, and I think another perspective is that we're a part of this community. Our kids go to our schools, but they also live in our city, and our city is prioritizing, a reduction in climate gases that affect our global warming that's going on. And so just me, one person, but I would definitely support using our land to better our community, better the lives of our students at Lincoln Park and then all across the city. I think another aspect of this is that our students are carrying the weight of climate grief. Shauna Weaver, a local author, visited the Climate Club and shared that. I see that my own kids who are ISD 709 students are carrying that weight. I see that these students are are exemplifying everything that we want to see in our students. And I've said that before, but I think we saw it here again. They're leaders, they're advocating, they're researching, and they're really just exemplifying everything that we want to see our students to have. And we've been talking about this a long time. So I really do appreciate the work that we're putting into solar. I would really like to see a solar project happen within the district.
Member Banks?
Thank you. And I just want to be, excuse me, very clear with what I'm saying here. Our city hasn't valued equity very well. Our district is attempting to do that. And so for me, equity in academics, culture within the school district, socially, are vitally important. And as a board member, for me, that would be the number one priority. Again, I'm not going to rehash what has already been said about the test scores and the graduation rates of kids of color, Native and African heritage in particular, but we've got to do something in that area, and we cannot let it continue because it's been an issue far before John and Anthony came to our district. It was an issue, and we cannot let it continue. So my priority is the equity piece in making sure that every kid of color gets everything they need to be successful when they walk out that door.
Member Zadowski?
Yeah, I just appreciate your comments, Member Banks. I couldn't agree more. I'd also like just to add to that, climate issues are, I think, disproportionately affecting people who are from minority communities across our country and in our globe. So I think it's connected, but I really appreciate you bringing that up about the equity piece.
Good conversation, really good. I love what Member Eater says too about clear priorities, but I'm going to come back to Superintendent Magus, and there's honestly, I will say, I don't like being pushed personally about two really important topics, and I feel like we are trying, I want to, so you want direction from us as to what the priority, and I'm having a hard time understanding why we can't do a little bit of both. And so we're not pitting these two issues, which are important to all of us. And I don't think we're doing it. I don't. And I don't think that was your intention with that comment either. But you also, I think you lay it at the board table where you should. And we are a smart and a good communication board. But so to my point with that is, there's a lot of steps in our solar. And then we have to also understand as board members that we have some significant vacancies in leadership right now. So they're all doing triple their job because of where we're at just in this moment. But so my question would be like, when is the grant due that would open up the door to that 500,000?
The grant is due
And you told me earlier.
December 20th, yes. So, and I want to be really clear.
I know.
We are still very interested in solar. If we want to see the grant come together, if we can, we want to do the Lincoln Park piece. I'm just saying when we start talking about like seeking out, potentially multi-million-dollar partners, I feel like, or I don't feel like, I know that in my conversations with our leadership team and our cabinet, that they're feeling taxed, and that there isn't an abundance of extra additional time. We're putting in, like I said, probably 10% of my time and time of many people on my team has been spent on solar and exploring solar because we have prioritized it, because we have listened to our students and we want it to happen. We have listened to the board and we want it to happen. I'm just saying, if you want it to be more of a priority, that would cause me to have to shift away from some other priorities. And so all I'm saying is we're kind of at our max right now, and with the budget reductions and also the work we're trying to do on the other strategic plan elements. So if we're going to seek out other additional things beyond the scope of what we have on the table, that would be that would require me to shift resources away from other things, which I can do. We serve at the pleasure of the board, but I don't think that's really what you're asking. I think I'm a little a little tired, and I apologize. But I just we want to make sure that we are not overpromising and under-delivering on the solar projects. Yeah, I don't want to say that we can invest $1 million in solar, because I would not recommend $1 million or $500,000 right now. I could see a couple $100,000 and maybe a little more, but that's with some of the funding coming back. But it would not be my recommendation to go far beyond that. That's why I want to really explore that Lincoln Park project, because that was exciting. Like, our students were just like, yeah, don't cut teachers, do the Lincoln Park project. And so if that can happen, which I believe is very, I don't want to be overly optimistic, but I think it's got a real good shot. I think that would be something to consider. And when I look back and I see Ms. Nachbar there, who also serves on our some of our work with looking at budget reduction, I know it would be hard pressed for me to come back to the teacher team that's been working on budget reduction and say, hey, let's find 5 more teachers or 10 paras to reduce to put $500,000 towards a solar project right now. So that's where the pull comes for all of us, because we want to do both. But I think we can move forward very likely with the solar project, with both of these in the scope of what we're doing. I'm optimistic. I just want to make sure that we're not overpromising and getting people's hopes up to dash them, because you've been working so hard on this. I don't want to overpromise and fail you.
Member, I don't know if it's Loeffler Kemp or Mike Sell first.
she was,
Okay,
Sarah
Member
was
Mike Sell, and then Member Loeffler Kemp.
I appreciate the frankness of our conversation, and to follow up on some things that Chair Lofall mentioned. I don't feel that this needs to be an either-or. We're a very talented district that is able to handle many things all at once, recognizing that we have needs that need to be addressed first and foremost, but the advocacy and the work of our students, the work of our stakeholders and community groups around this issue, all of the work that has gone into it, like the spreadsheets and that we've been receiving and all the analysis, needs to have been for something. And so recognizing that we have 2 very good proposals that we're currently looking at right now, and choosing one or both to move forward on, I think, is a reasonable thing to do at this time. Thank you.
Member Loeffler Kemp.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, and I really appreciate this discussion. Couldn't agree more with Member Michael Sella, but we do have 2 good proposals here. I think many of us sitting around the table know advocacy takes a long time, right, Member Banks? A long time. And projects sometimes take a long time. And that can be a good thing, because then they're going to be good projects that make sense, in our case, for the district, for the city, for our future. I know as a district, we've been working on the idea of solar in our schools long before Superintendent Magnus was here. It was under our former superintendent as well. And so I know there's a commitment for it, and a lot of time has been spent. And I wasn't, when I brought up the $5 million, asking us to put more into it. I just wanted clarification, because there's, again, been a lot of numbers thrown out there that I think it gets confusing on what we actually have in the project and what we don't. And I don't want to overpromise our students or anybody either. I want to make sure we can do a project projects that make sense. And so I do think we still focus on it. That is my hope, for many reasons. But and if that Lincoln Park project can work out, I mean, that really does seem pretty ideal initially. for us to focus on. Love to see Stowe. When I came here 30 years ago, Stowe was the environmental magnet school. Lots of great things were happening, so if we can do something again with this, and maybe the community out there that's listening will be hearing our call for being a partner in some ways to help. And maybe they will have heard the students speak tonight, and maybe, but those are all maybes, just like this grant is a maybe. And that's just what I just want to, I guess, make sure that any information getting out there, like Superintendent Magus said, is that we're not overpromising. We're following a process that is good for these potential projects, but we're working through the grant system, knowing that it might not give us everything we need to do it, to do everything. So I would like to second the couple board members that want it to continue, but, continuing to be thoughtful, continuing to look at the money, is it coming in or not, and making sure the community and the community groups or our students know what we really have to work with and what we don't, so.
So to synthesize everything I've heard tonight, I still think there's a major question to be either voted on or conversed on in a way. And that, and I feel bad because I would really like to talk a little bit more about your report on the American Indian education piece of this too. But, so are we saying as a board that this grant is due December 20th? How much bandwidth do you have energy-wise with your staff to share with the board that you could go forward with that grant? You could apply for the grant. But yet, if we apply for the grant, we're applying then that we are giving permission for some kind of lots of next steps. Either, I would think the message before the board is, do you want to make a motion to have the district pursue the 500,000 grant, to finish that grant before December 20th? Knowing that if we get it, it also puts us in a precarious position of overpromising and underserving, because now we've got the grant, but the other pieces aren't quite following. So, and there's probably a deadline and all kinds of things. You guys are better at grant writing than and experience with it than I am. So if we go for the grant, that puts us on a trial, a trajectory of making this more of a priority than maybe we can. Do we say tonight that we are going to support not going through with this grant and put your effort into making a better connection with the city to make the Lincoln Park array happen? Because I don't know if you really wanted to go forward. If we apply for the grant, we are more or less saying that even though we say we know that the priority is in budget and in making sure we have teachers. Are you following this? I'll shut my mic off and see what you guys, are you following
I don't know
this?
if Member Sadowski or I was next, but I guess, do you mind if I just jump in?
Not at all.
I don't know if that's the question we should be asking Chair Lofel, because I think we already gave the support to move forward with this grant process. Right? We did that already. Yeah. Yeah.
And can you do that? For
Yeah.
December 20th?
Yeah, so our intention is to move forward with the grant, and I think there are certain things, if we find out the Stowe roof can't support the solar panels, then there wouldn't be much point in continuing with that particular grant for that particular piece. We could reconfigure and look for another project. Basically what I'm saying, what I was trying to say in my slide, and I didn't know it would cause such great dialogue, which has been very interesting. We quote. What am I trying to say is that we're planning to move forward with the grant if it works out, and if it doesn't work out, we won't do the grant. So I guess I don't really need direction on that. We do plan on moving forward with exploring the Lincoln Park piece. I think there's great promise there. If that can happen, that's wonderful. So I don't know that there's really a need for a board decision on this at this point. And I guess all I was saying is we were starting to maybe go down a road of like putting more time and resource into finding community partners to fund the other part. And I was just saying, like, right now, we're putting as much bandwidth towards solar as we can. And if the board wants us to put more bandwidth towards it, we can, but it would be at the shift of finite resource from something else. So, like, and I would suggest if we were doing that, we would add solar, to our guiding change on budget, that, we have supporting every student, advancing equity, improving systems, and solar, or something like, and I don't think that we're ready to do that, or we're suggesting that. So I think that my direction is clear. You're saying, do solar, try and make solar happen, and do your best at it, given what you've got so far, and partner with our students, and you're getting to see the inside of of how decision-making happens sometimes. But you're also seeing the reason why this is a tough choice is because in all of this, whether it's money or time or the environment, there are finite resources, and we need to be very prudent in how we're making these decisions. But I feel like I have enough information from the board to move forward.
Member Zadowski.
I was just going to thank everyone for the great conversation and just acknowledge that we have been very short-staffed in the district in many different positions, especially administratively. So just appreciate the thoughtfulness that both of you and our staff are putting into this, not just solar, but a lot of the other initiatives. Assistant Superintendent Bonds, you've taken on a lot of extra responsibilities, as we learned about too in the superintendent report. So thank you.
Member Lafleur-Camp.
Yeah, and I'll just wrap up this piece anyways with the solar project. I mean, I'm hoping that, and I know our legislative agenda was briefly talked about in your report, so I can throw it in here, that we have something like we have the last few years about supporting solar in our schools, further funding in our legislative agenda to show that we are continuing to advocate for more funding for schools. So I know we're going to be discussing that at a later date, but that's another way we can advocate for our future and for our students is through our legislative agenda. Thank you.
And I do have some questions on the advancing equity under the American Indian information you share. And I appreciate Member Banks and I were at the last tribal consultation, and you referred to that. And that has been a really wonderful opportunity over my last 4 years. And it's really the responsibility of a board chair to be present at those tribal consultations. It's a sign of respect, and it's a sign of honor. So as we look at board chairs and their responsibilities, the American Tribal Consultation usually happens once a year, but we've been really more present with them to build relationships, so it's been 3 to 4 times a year. So but I do like the relationship that our leadership has continued to pursue with our American Indian tribal leadership. But also, I really want to say that cohorts like we've got at Denfeld take time. There's going to be some mistakes, and there's going to be some shuffling this year. So I know that new programs take a little time. So you've referred to that you certainly are keeping tabs on that, and I appreciate that. And also, I think when we look at our staffing and our leadership and of the American Indian district leader here in this facility, is that I have watched you over the many 4 or 5 years you've been here hiring significant people in our district, that you've taken the time to really know what that position needs, and you've even posted it and then reposted it. If the candidates aren't, you're looking for the best of the best. So I really appreciate that thoughtfulness that you've put in, and I expect to see that same kind of professionalism and dedication, because it's the mid-year, so posting it now is going to not maybe, but I know that you will. And then if you don't see the candidate in the pool you've got, you're going to continue to work to make sure that candidate is the best candidate. And then I just want to say to the legislative platform update that I'm honored that we as a district, and more specifically as school board members, we put out 3 legislative platform positions to the Minnesota School Board Association. We put 1 on special education funding, we put 1 on technology funding, and the last one that we put on was for career and tech education. And the Minnesota School Board Association selected our career and tech ed resolution and bill to potentially go forward. Now, the delegate assembly will vote. That happens next weekend. There will be a vote of school boards across the state to support. There's like 124 potential resolutions, of which career and tech ed, the one that we put forward as our district, is the only one on career and tech ed. So the Minnesota School Board Association has already approved their support of making that one of their legislative platform mandates as well. So we're going to get a lot more advocacy on our career and tech ed funding. It's going to ask the legislation to push their funding from 35% to 50%. And I know it's been a long night tonight with lots of other important information, but I really wanted to salute you as a school board for stepping up and being present as a delegate, and then also going down for advocacy on the part of our district and our schools. So I appreciate that. Any other questions about the superintendent's report or concluding remarks you want to say? Or member?
Yeah, I'm sorry to belabor this, but I'm going to anyway. Equity is so very important in ISD 709, and I want to see major investments in our equity community. Our kids, our Native American and African American kids deserve more from our district, and that's all I'll say.
That concludes the superintendent's report, and so the next thing on the agenda is just a reminder of our schedule of meetings and events. And so if you look at that, and again, Patty puts that out to us every Friday, and that's awesome. And so I just want to call your attention to the fact that, we are right back at it, at a community of the whole, next week, because of just the way the elections and the dates fell. So, just get that in your calendar. We also have our work session next week, of which we put out a tentative agenda, and, I hope you got a chance to look at that, and we'll be together again. And then if you look at December 9th through the 13th, I just want to highlight, because we will be looking at committees. That's part of our workshop agenda, just a review of the committees that we are appointed to that we get in January. But you have a lot of those committee meetings coming up the week of December 9th. We have the Education Equity Advisory Committee meeting on December 12th. And so I just want to put that on your radar. If you are a community, if you are the school board rep on that committee. And the other one is we have on the same night, we have the Special Education Parent Advisory Council right here at the district service at 4:15. And we also have board members assigned to that committee. And again, I'm really looking at your feedback for the committees you have represented us on. That's really great, and they love having us there, because we're going to kind of look at those assignments that's going to come up for reappointment in January. So at the workshop, we're just going to do a quick 20-minute review of those committees, because there's also a request from the American Indian Parent Advisory Committee, the IPAC. They would like a school board rep on their council, someone who would only, though, probably come 4 times a year, like quarterly. It's not like we have to be at every one of their parent advisory, but that they would like a board member present. So we'll consider that at our workshop. So again, it's EAC, and it is the Special Education Parent Advisory Council, and the regular ones that we're on. Title IX Committee, is that federal? Is that the federal programs with Darren? No, Patty?
The American Indian Education Department has now divided their parent committees into 3 separate committees, so that is one of theirs. They're all on the same night, and the one follows the next.
Thank you.
And it's Title VI.
Okay, not Title IX. Roman numerals, yeah, Title VI, yeah. Okay. Next on our agenda is our reports of our various committees, right? Standing committees. So I'll turn it over to Assistant Superintendent Bonds for our report of our latest COW meeting, which was just last week.
It was, and I'll be brief. We had several presentations provided by various individuals. The first one was provided by Annie Schilling. She's our Professional Development Coordinator. She provided some insight to the Professional Development Day that took place on October the 14th, which was, now I'm having a brain fart. It was our Professional Development Day, but it was also
Indigenous Peoples' Day.
That's what I'm saying. Now I'm having a brain fart at the moment. Indigenous Peoples' Day, and the topics for the day focus on Indigenous people. There were a lot of professional development related to culture, history, and Annie did a great job of sharing that information. So Mrs. Schilling did an awesome job for that presentation. Under Supporting Every Student, Sheila Oak, she's the supervisor for our Child Nutrition Program. She provided some summer meals audit results. Brenda Sparks, our Director of Elementary Education, and principals were here, and all of our school principals shared and walked through their school improvement plans, just some highlights on their key efforts and strategies that they're employing to improve outcomes in the building. There was a budget update provided by Superintendent Magus and Simone Zunich. And we also had a resolution for not just information, but also for voting. And that's related to the Minnesota High School League Foundation, as well as the designation of identified official for authority for Head Start. So those were, there were 2 resolutions provided that day. Thank you.
And just some input before we go on to our next board meeting is that there's minutes, because we did take action at the committee of the whole meeting on the consent agenda, are the minutes from that reflecting that vote. So that's all. Thank you. Going on to our next, right? Any questions? So going on to our next report, it is the report of our HR and Business, and Chair of that committee is Chair Eder.
Thank you. We met on November 12th at 4:35, and we had no guest presentations for that meeting. We moved on to our departmental reports. We started out with Human Resources. You can find the more detailed summary located in the agenda. I'm just going to hit some highlights here again. As we see, for staffing updates for HR during the month of October, we did see more new hires for both our certified and non-certified staff than we did see retirements, resignations, and leave of absences. So that's very important. We are making sure that we are staffed properly to serve our students and families. In the month of October, HR, along with Finance, has been doing their site staffing and budget review meetings. And as of that, what did I say, the date of the 12th, they only had 3 site remainings. Our HR team has been attending the Minnesota Association of School Personnel Administrators, the MASPA Fall Conference, and this was very important for them because they were educated on the latest legal updates regarding the earned, safe, and sick time and the Minnesota unemployment law. And I would just make some notes of that, as these are additional costs that are going to be associated for the district once those one-time funding allocations from the state legislature run out. We will, depending on whether the legislature continues to fund those programs or if those costs are going to come back on the district. So that's something to think about in the future. They're also getting education, as paid family medical leave will begin in 2026. We also had some HR staff attend professional development training at Denfeld to look at cultural competency and inclusion, again, focusing on making sure that equity and inclusion are lifted up in this district. Staff attended and learned about such topics as cultural definitions and behaviors, Inclusion Mobility Museum, Ojibwe Faces and Stories, connections between ableism and equity in special education, Ojibwe language, a conversation with ISD 709 families and the community outreach specialists. We've also, on November 13th, November 14th, our HR staff attended the Duluth Chamber of Commerce Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Workshop. And this was a workshop that offered guidance to our business community as how they can support and uplift Indigenous-led organizations and provide valuable insight into our local Indigenous culture. We had some updates on benefits as open enrollment ran the 4th through the 15th. And we are beginning to do the work with our district to host 3 sessions for our retired employees who are members let me start over. The end of October, our district hosted 3 sessions for our retired employees who are members of the Medicare plans that the district offers. There were some other offerings to our employees for education, for CALM and other things. The last thing I want to update us on is our contract negotiations. We have 1 unit left to finalize our negotiations with, and that is the District-wide Instructional Administrators Association, and they're working on to get that next meeting finalized. That concluded our HR monthly staffing departmental report. Moving on to business services, we start out with enrollment. Currently for the month of November, no, this was our October. Our October. John, you got me. I'm just can't type right now either. Currently, our enrollment report, we have 8,168.23 students, and our budget to date is at 8,068. So currently, we are have more students than what we have budgeted for. That's always great to see. We will see those numbers drop off as we see students graduate at the semester. Next, our child nutrition departmental report. I'm going to kind of go through some of this stuff. We have an after-school meal program at Denfeld that was started in October, and that matches the after-school DASH program. The average number of students grabbing a bite to eat is around 75 per afternoon. So we're offering after-school meals for our students at Denfeld. We also have a Farm to School month. In support of our Farms to School month in Minnesota, we purchased and featured Honeycrisp apples developed at the University of Minnesota, local lettuce and romaine mixes, acorn squash, local tomatoes, and other fresh produce. They took part in the Great Lakes Apple Crunch on October 10th, and anyone that wants to can crunch into an apple at lunchtime. They had a special guest, that was Johnny Appleseed, and the child nutrition equipment technician Ken Witt dressed up and spread coloring book pages and stickers at a few of the elementary schools over mealtime. There's a great picture of Johnny Appleseed and a bunch of our nutrition staff at Piedmont. He was asked for his autograph, so I want to make sure that that is out in the public record. The Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Program, this grant program was again awarded to Myers Wilkins and was started in October. The students are going to get a great exposure to all sorts of different fruits and vegetables that they might not get at home, as well as part of their midday snack. And this grant works with the Community School Collaborative to be able to provide this nutrition service to students. There was an update from as to what sorts of meals our ALC and our AEO students can access. So because of some changes in administrative language and rules with the USDA, or one of the health department, state health department, ALC is no longer available to serve hot meals, so we will be serving cold meals there. Students, of course, can go to any other high school to get those hot meals, but we do realize that this is an additional barrier to our students that we acknowledge. But this is sort of one of these things that we don't really have the capacity to do much for. We don't have the proper equipment that we need in order to serve hot meals. So we are continuing to serve our students meals at both the ALC and AEO, and we're serving about 30 to 40 meals there a day. Moving on to our facilities department report, they continue to do great work. We know that Myers-Wilkins, the scope of work has been established and bids have been received by ICS, and we are hoping to begin the gym repair. We've had some dead trees removed at East by Rick's Tree Service. We're also working on chiller replacement quotes for Myers-Wilkins. We also have boiler inspections that were completed by Liberty Mutual, and we're waiting on Minnesota Power to inspect power poles for some replacement at Holmcroft. We do want to just take a minute to acknowledge that we have open positions, 2 open positions at Denfeld and Ordine, a second shift engineer position open at Myers-Wilkins, and 2 custodian positions open at Denfeld and Lowell. And I continue to see some great commercials on the Fox 21 morning show looking for those advertising for ISD 709 to come work for us for both bus drivers and custodial services. Moving on to our technology department report. What I want to bring everybody's attention to is some E-rate and RFP bids. There is a USAC E-rate cybersecurity pilot program that we have submitted some stuff to. I can't think of the words right now. The federal government has $200 million that they've put towards this, and they've received $3.7 billion of grant asks, with over 2,700 schools around the United States asking for this help. So I just want to take a note of that. I also want to lift up our technology department. They had a huge effort where they essentially moved the ARC Involta data center move. They got that completed. They did that work very diligently, and that work started Thursday through Saturday, I believe. Was that MEA weekend? I believe so. Yeah, so our technology staff working hard that Thursday through Saturday to get all that data moved. So I just want to lift them up, and if you see Bart or any of our technology staff, tell them thank you. As we look on our transportation report, we are, as usual, short of drivers and helpers. Hopefully, we had an interview for a van driver. Hopefully that worked out, and we're going to be also posting for another full-time bus driver position, and continuing to work on routes and our to make our students' experience better. Those were our business services. We have 3 recommended resolutions that are coming forward: acceptance of donations, authorized bank signer, and acceptance of grant awards to the Duluth Public Schools. On the consent agenda, you'll find the HR staffing report, our financial report, any bids, RFPs, and quotes, contract leases and change orders. And then lastly, we have listed at the end of this agenda expenditure contracts, no-cost contracts, and my favorite, revenue contracts. So any details can be found in our agenda packet, and I'm open to answering any questions. You all want to meet Johnny Appleseed, don't you? I can. If there's no questions, that concludes the report.
I do have just a few. Just, looking at our, I love that our budget is on our website, but under the F&Q section, there isn't anything yet. It's not live yet. I mean, the headline is there, but there isn't anything there.
Correct.
Okay.
Adele's the one that's building that.
Okay,
We're
so we just
collecting-
haven't- okay.
We just haven't gotten there yet.
Cool. And I agree that keeping that on our website. I understand taking down the current budget thing the first week in December, so we can, work on what we're going to present in the month of December, but keeping that up is a good idea. I think that's my only question. Any others? Member Lafleur-Kemp.
Just a quick comment, if you could pass on to our bus drivers to just thank them for getting through yesterday, and we support them as we move into the winter months. So, thank you.
And I love the robust lunch options and all the emphasis on the fruit and the vegetables, because if you look in the Duluth News Tribune today, we have one of our students that still feels like we need more food, and that's high school life. And I do like I don't know, do middle schools and high schools have the after school quick snack, or is that just a Denfeld community school option.
I think that's a Denfeld thing as of right now.
And I think it's through the community schools, yeah, okay. So last is our policy report, and member Loeffler Kemp, who's the chair of that committee,
you.
will give our report as well.
Jump in. Tuesday, November 19th was our policy meeting. We had policies for first reading, policy 621, which is literacy in the READ Act. And all of you, I am sure, remember when legislation was passed in 2023 on the READ Act. So this is a new policy. It's a model from NSBA. Thank Brenda Spartz and Jackie Otway for reading through it and working on it. The purpose of this policy is to align with the Minnesota law established in the READ Act and on other topics related to reading. And they really kept all of the model policy except under 5 under intervention, or 6, excuse me, under intervention. They took out F, and basically it's because we already have a process in place for screening tools, and they didn't feel this was as clear as what we already have in place. Then the other thing that was brought up is under the legal references, Minnesota statute, the first one should read 120B 119, not 118. So that just would be changed. Again, this is a first reading of this new policy, so we align with the READ Act. There were no policies for second reading, and then we did have a couple policies for review. Policy 707, which is transportation of public school students. And the purpose of this policy is to provide for the transportation of students consistent with the requirements of the law. And a lot of kind of legislative and language changes were made in here. You can see our updates are in red. There's a number of statutes that were at the end of each paragraph that we didn't need, were taken out. And then I would highlight in eligibility under that section, we updated the language to our updated distance. So that's really Duluth specific to work that we did to advance equity as well. And so that is, let's see, the major changes. There were some changes under legislative changes under 7 with special education students with a disability and students with temporary disabilities. There were some language changes under Section B of that as well. And then under Section 5, 6, 7, 8, there under homeless students, we changed B to use, rather than calling it homeless education liaison, it's families and transition coordinator, which is what our title is. And then again, the legal references are noted, and we adopted this policy last time in 2016. So those were the changes in the review. This was a review. And then 725, request for proposals. Again, some language changes. 725, the purpose of this policy is the district's administration is authorized to enter into a joint purchasing agreement with the state of Minnesota to allow the district to purchase goods and services listed on the state's contract indexed at the prices and terms available to the state. The district is not required to obtain bids and quotations for purchases made from the state's contract indexed. Furthermore, administration is authorized to purchase goods and/or services from other governmental or school district cooperative or joint purchasing ventures established through a competitive bidding process. And you might remember when we reviewed that, we renumbered it earlier this spring in March of 2024. And Part of bringing that up was because in the regulation, we had some language changes. So we wanted to bring that up. And then, let me see here. Let's see. So then the two informational regulations were 707R, which is transportation of public school students. And there was really some cleanup in language. You'll see highlighted under H, turning language from handicap to disabilities. And then under 2, there are a couple other language changes. And then, again, some statute changes there. And then with the regulation for bids, quotes, and requests, again, some language changes. There was some corrections to under the process that we don't use in about the 4th paragraph. Those were the informational items. And again, we just have one policy for first reading, and these will all be in our consent agenda. Thank you.
Questions? Just one or two. It's kind of like, what is it? So I really do, I mean, thank you. And the policy continues to, be important as our responsibility as board members. I think I was, trying to answer some questions that community members had, and it's not my first thought. It has to be reminded by sometimes a board member that tells me to go to the policy that governs that question. And sure enough, if you look at the policy, it will tell you. So thank you to the policy committee. I know it's kind of tedious work sometimes when it's just a language change or a language update, but you always are really thorough in that, so listening to that. And I also listened when the presentation from Jackie Otway and and Brenda, about just the conundrum we have when the state legislatures make policy themselves that we're supposed to follow, and they contradict within their own legislation. And so I know that as we go to advocate with legislators, they've got to do the same thing. They've got to take suggestions from us and clean up their language, because there's some things that say, they strongly encourage, and then within a few lines down, it's a must. And so that leaves the policy committee that you guys work so hard for, and then the leadership of our district in a conundrum. And so, those are little things, but sometimes those are the things that the legislators really like us to bring to them, because it's so quick. It's like, okay, we just have to change these languages. It makes sense to us. It's not asking for money. It's not asking, for other things, but it's important for us to make sure they clean that up, because it helps us. And then I really appreciate the 707 transportation policy too, with just the updates with what's particular to our district. And then I think I thought it was the 707 policy, but it's not. I really appreciate your attention as policy committee members to language changes that are equitable and necessary in times like when you're looking to phrase something, the handicapped is not the word you use anymore. And you guys are good at making sure we're changing it to the most appreciative and respectful use of language. So that's all I have. Member Sadowski. See, I knew somebody would come up with some questions if I talk long enough.
Well, along those lines, I don't know if I'm looking at the right one, and I apologize. I did not have the capacity to watch the policy committee meeting this month. But on the policy 407, so the transportation, under section 8, I'm looking where it says homeless students. Was that language changed at all? Because in the work that I do in the community, I think maybe I'm just thinking maybe there's more of a person-centered way to phrase that. Students who are experiencing homelessness or unhoused is another phrase that I hear a lot in my circles. So Not a huge deal, but I noticed that and it stood out to me just because of the language that, that I use.
And it came up, but because it's state statute was the way we needed to keep it. But I think that would be a good thing to advocate on with our local legislators. So on the language change. Yeah.
Correct, because Ms. Laffer-Kemp is right. We discussed it.
Yeah.
But we knew by state definition, we stay with it. Yep.
If there's no other questions, I would just again, as chair of the committee, thank the committee members for their input, but also again, thank Executive Assistant Patty Paquette for particularly all of the legislative changes and keeping us on track with those in a timely way and taking our feedback and making those changes. So again, a huge thank you as we continue to move forward with our new policy, or with our policies.
So moving on our agenda, if I don't see any lights, it is, our number 8 is general board committee updates. So in this time since our last monthly meeting, have we attended any of our committee meetings? Anybody want to, remember Mike Sell?
Earlier this week, I attended the Staff Development Advisory Committee, and there's an amazing group of over 30 staff attendees from across the district who were present there, working under our new professional development director, coming up with creative ways to engage staff and to get good professional development to benefit all of our students. So using a lot of data-driven and a lot of input from the stakeholders that we'll be learning as it seems like it's going to be a really good group, and they have a lot of good energy and motivation to do good work for our students.
Member Zadowski.
I attended the Head Start Policy Council meeting this last month, and they have a great group of engaged parents. A few of them are seasoned. They were on the committee the last year or two, and then a few of them are new. And so they spent their meeting kind of learning about what it means to be on the Head Start Policy Council, the responsibilities, where their work intersects with our work. And so that was that meeting.
I will just throw out that the EAC meeting was canceled this month because of some things that came up in the community. And then I was unable to attend the Parks and Rec because of the AMSD. AMSD. So.
Seeing no other lights on, thank you for those reports, and I look forward to the opportunity to hear more, because, we had this kind of lull in meetings and school board stuff, so next month we'll go there again. So I'm looking for a motion to accept our consent agenda, and our Chair of Policy and Chair of HR Business did a really good job of reminding us what's on that consent agenda as well. It's been in our board book. So do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda? Is there a second? Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the consent agenda acceptance, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda passes. That moves us to our resolutions. And so I'll look first to our resolution by Member Zadowski on our donations.
I'm going to move Resolution B-11-24-4066.
I'll do a second, and then you can come back to it. Okay. No? Okay, yep. Is there a second? Okay. And then Member
Peter,
Zadowski.
you're seconding? All righty then.
And then a brief background on those donations?
Yep, I wasn't going to read the whole thing, but this is just a resolution to accept the donations to our public schools. And we have a nice long list here for donations, 2 pages, several to Stowe, Piedmont. I see some to Lester Park, Myers-Wilkins, Homecroft, Laura MacArthur, Denfeld, and yeah, so a lot of different grants, or different donations rather, to our public schools.
And I kind of jumped the gun too. Did you want to read those whereas clauses, or can we just vote on it?
No, we don't need to.
Okay,
We can just,
okay.
I move that resolution, so.
All those in favor of the resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, resolution carries. Our next resolution is 10B. It's authorized bank signer, and that is Member Eater.
I move resolution for the authorized bank account signer, Resolution B-11-24-4067, to allow for Sarah Gullen and removing Cameron Jokey from our community ed authorized bank account signature.
Is there a second? Is there any questions? All those in favor of moving this resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to our last resolution, Member Mike Sell.
I move resolution B-11-24-4068, the acceptance of grant awards to Duluth Public Schools.
Is there a second? Is there any discussion or question? Member Loeffler Kemp.
Question, and I'm just curious, the Legacy and Macmillan grant that Cal Harris has received for Laura MacArthur, it's for student transportation to the state capitol and to the Mille Lacs Indian Museum and Trading Post. That's wonderful. Is it coming up? Isn't it something that's coming up? This opportunity for, is it Laura MacArthur students?
They are Laura MacArthur students. The actual date of it, I don't have it in my head, to be honest.
Wonderful opportunity.
It is,
Great, thank
definitely.
you.
But I always like to clarify at this point with grants, as they've been applied for, they haven't found out if they've received it. So they always have to go through the grant, the grant process that is laid out in our school district and on the website. So we want to celebrate the fact that these wonderful leaders in our district applied for these grants. And I think I've asked this before. I would love to hear if we get them, if they receive them. And to further this question is, before the board 2 months ago, Rachel Lofald, the music teacher at Denfeld, applied for an $8,000 music grant, and she found out this week that they received it. So right now, the music, and it's for music and instrumental lessons for $8,000 to provide instrumental and voice lessons for Denfeld students. So I encourage us to continue to figure out if we've got those actual ones. So the resolution has been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That moves us to number 11, special resolutions and action items, and we have none, right? Okay. And then number 12, it's questions and other. And I know it's late, but I predicted 8:30, so we're not too bad. But I just would like to take this place in the agenda because I don't know where else to place this. But it's a celebration, and the celebration is that the Minnesota School Board Association has selected our member Rosie Loeffler Kemp as the all-state school board. And so she'll be honored at the convention in January, but I just want to take this public opportunity. It's going to be rolled out by the Minnesota School Board Association as well. That will roll out in their December kind of public messaging in their Facebook. So look for that. But congratulations, Rosie, for 12 years. I had to inquire from Greg Abbott from the Minnesota School Board Association, because part of the application process asked for like how many like points does member Loeffler Kemp have for attending things, and he was shocked to pull up her record to find that she has probably the most points of many school board members. She has 589 points accumulated in her service for the workshops, the delegate assemblies, the summer attendance, the phase 1 through 4 multiple times, and just the many other things she does. So I'm sure that the Minnesota School Board Association, when selecting their all-state, there's 7 of them that are selected, and she's one of 7, and she'll be honored. But I'm sure it was an easy choice, I would think. Congratulations. I'm proud. I'm proud to be on the board with you. I know it's always hard to accept, like recognition and awards, but it's good for us too. So thank you. Congratulations. I'm looking for a motion to adjourn. Or do you want to comment? Yeah, Superintendent Vargas.
Yeah. And
Because you were a big part of this
That was actually
nomination.
why I had my light on too, and I'm glad that we were both on the same page thinking that this was something that we wanted to comment on. And we were actually, we had you in mind, and we were actually, when we moved forward with the MSBA, they were very, very interested in having you as part of that. You were a shoo-in, and I think that you exemplify really strong board leadership. You've been a great guide to me ever since I first came here as superintendent, and you're helping shape and guide the district in many ways. Looking at the number of points and things that you've received from all the trainings, it's staggering. I also want to say thanks to Member Sadowski. You're being recognized at the meeting too as one of the director's recognition pieces during the lunch as far as having completed many of the trainings. So you'll be part of the lunch recognition. But being on the All-Star School Board, I've always said this is the best board I've ever worked with. All of the iterations we've had, I don't want to insult any previous members either, but I just want to say thank you for your leadership.
I'm looking for a motion to adjourn. Member Williams, is there a second? Member Mikesell seconds. All those in favor of adjournment say aye.